the new album is, there is very little irony in that. Direct and word by word, if you know what I mean.
It is. Due to happens, I live my life by the writing desk, creating fantasies, stories, playing with ideas. My channels of expression are books and records. I love my job. I think it's the best job I could possibly have. It's a bit lonely, sitting there at the desk, but apart from that, I'm having the time of my life. Um, when the brick comes flying in through the window, that's what I call it. When I got the news about this massacre in Finland, obviously you start thinking, um, was it fault? I mean, did I tell that young guy to go out and kill people? I didn't. Did I glorify similar instances? I have one lyric that's called Ruger, where a person is actually killed, and it's the story of a tor tormented, or what do you call it, like a victim exerting revenge on his tormentor. So, I have lyrics discussing similar instances, but they are stories.
Yeah.
They are not, and that's the painful and wonderful thing about the relationship between fiction and reality, is that we tell stories. Um, I look at, I read about, I read newspapers, and these stories happen all the time.
Mm.
In Oslo, you have shootings and stabbings in different scenes and underground environments, with people having feuds, fights, and they kill each other with guns. Sometimes in public, with possibly stray bullets, they could hit children and so on.
Yeah.
Um, I see the problem. I write stories similar to those, and I express it through music. And so when shit hits the fan and the storyteller becomes enmeshed with the enactment of the story in real life, that's where the problem begins. Up to that point, I'm only a storyteller, and I refuse any kind of responsibility for such actions or crimes, and I refuse also to have to answer for those crimes, because a crime is committed by a criminal,
Yeah.
and when alive or caught, those people can actually answer to the law in courts. I've made a point of answering questions in interviews, which I think is only fair due to my the outspoken quality of the at least the two first Sturmgeist albums. Um, there will come a time when I will stop doing that and simply move on, because I'm getting fed up with the whole thing. But I think it's only fair that I answer questions. If any member of the mainstream society have doubts about black metal, extreme metal, what are these guys up to? Do they want revolution? Well, most of them don't. I'm not even part of them.
Mm.
It's simply a subculture enjoying music. That's the environment that I grew up with, and that's the work I still do for that environment, making music.
You could have chosen to not say much, but you chose otherwise and actually wrote a song to this dead guy, um, which is a choice that is both understandable, and you could understand the other way as well, to just run away, to put it that way. But you chose to kind of confront this.
That is very much in the Sturmgeist style, I would say, because it's Sturmgeist was from the outset on. It was, obviously there was a provocative joy of doing this in a country where German culture has um, there is a difficult relation in Norway still to this day with German culture, and especially the history of occupation. I mean, my family had, back in the day, they had a big house up in the north, Norway, that was burnt to the ground by German bombs. So, and I grew up with stories from that house, and that, the rancor and the anger against everything German. But before that, that family had also, the father in the house had been a German consul, and they had kids going to Germany in schools, and my grandmother went to Berlin in the 30s to paint, so it was a family in love with German culture, but also extremely angry for what happened. And that story is, you find it on all sides of the conflict. I mean, so many German families lost their sons and fathers, and women, of
Yeah.
course, after the Soviet invasion of Berlin. Atrocious things were done to German civilians. So the whole topic is it's very painful and very sensitive. And when you go out with a name such as Sturmgeist, it is only to be expected that there come direct questions. And if I would have chosen the same name again, I think I would actually, because I find it a very powerful name, with a lot of the same greatness to it that you can find in the old German philosophy and
Yeah.
classical orchestral music, like in Also sprach Zarathustra. You can find the phrase Sturmgeist. And you can find it in Goethe and all that wonderful music that the Germans made, back in the day. So I still think I would do more or less the same thing again.
About this title of the album, Manifesto Futurista, which probably is pronounced something else in Italian.
Manifesto Futurista, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of a bit going back in time and to view things. So why did you choose that? Well, how did you come up with that?
I've for a long time been interested in the Italian art movement that is called Futurism. I mean, Filippo Tommaso Marinetti was one of them. It was like a son of a very rich man, had a beautiful car back in I think it was 1908. He crashed the car and he got out of it barely alive, shaken to the bone. And he went home and he wrote a manifesto where they worship speed and progress, technology, and they had this wonderful enthusiasm about the new age coming, where the end of art. There will be. They loved, engineering and steel, conflict, mass movements, and the roars of the masses, and they would burn old museums with rubbish. They called it, and I think it's in the end became entangled with the fascists and Mussolini. So for that reason, they have been um, a bit what do you call it, left out in the cold for very comprehensible reasons, understandable reasons. But nevertheless, I used them in my album concept because I found that this joy and enthusiasm and the rage that they had, it fits perfectly with black metal, and I wanted to do something new. It's Satan is an old friend. I wanted to make some new friends, so I took in the futurists, and there is also the old bunch of soldiers in the album. There's a story from World War One.
Yeah.
On Uber, there was like a song called Enigma from World War Two. So I've sort of touched upon different conflicts. But the Italian idea, the Futurist Manifesto, I think it's a breath of fresh air for me, and it's the chorus of the song, of the title track, is actually in Italian.
Yeah.
Manifesto Futurista, sempre più veloce, always faster. It's like the joy of the car ride, charging toward the horizon. It's very with an enthusiasm that comes from the early 20th century. So it's very nostalgic in a way, because nobody believes that you can solve problems by war anymore. At least intelligent people don't do so,
No.
and uh, it's a luxury we can't afford anymore to believe in solving conflicts by the gun, I'd say.
Still, more and more people do.
They do.